Welcome to the Singularity Syndicate podcast. I'm Naja Faysal. I'm joined today by Colin Kingsmill, co-founder of the Whole Human Coaching and owner of Insight Incorporated. And we'll talk about coaching, real estate, and AI. And now, here's Colin Kingsmill. Hello, Colin. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Naja. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I won these cards during White Elephant. And these cards are like wisdom cards. So I'd like I'd like you to pick a number, and I'll take that card and read it out loud, and then we probably reflect on it as we begin 2024. What do you think?
Sure, let's go for it. How about number 5?
Okay, number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 says, take time out for yourself.
That's a pretty easy one. We should do a couple more of those. I mean, what can I say? Take time for yourself. Yes. And I think what's important in today's world is this idea of healthy selfishness, right? So when you say take time for yourself, that sounds kind of easy and cliche, but I think what it really means is put yourself first. You know, put your oxygen mask on first before you can help others. And you know, whether it's at work or play or anywhere in between, if you aren't taking time for yourself and nurturing yourself and nourishing yourself, then you're not running on full set of batteries. So yes to number 5. We can choose another one if you like. That was an easy. That was a low ball, man.
So
yeah.
No, definitely. But this is, I think, the card also aligns with what you do for a living, and I'm very curious, and I'm sure the listeners are very curious to know what do you do for a living and about your background and experience.
So I do a couple of things. We do team coaching and executive coaching with Whole Human Coaching. I do one-on-one private coaching with CEOs and entrepreneurs with colinkingsmill.com, and I've spent 20 plus years in international real estate development. So I still do that, but I have followed the advice of card number 5, and I really play in the real estate space these days when the project is great and the people are great and they all want to do something impactful. You know, as you know, it's a world that can be sometimes without soul. So soulful real estate is something that I'm still into.
So on your profile, you says human-centric real estate. So
Yep.
I was wondering what does that really mean?
So a lot of real estate developers will come into a place, right? And they will bring with them a mindset of, well, I'm going to put a hotel here, I'm going to put retail there, I'm going to put commercial here, and there's going to be residences over there, and I'm going to sell the real estate, and people are going to buy it, and it will become a community. With all of the ingredients, right? All of the component pieces are there, but a lot of the time, developers forget that it's humanity and people and human organisms and organic things happening in those spaces, right? So often, real estate and developments get designed with all of the logic pieces, but none of the magic, right? And where you see exceptional development and real estate developments is when there's that blend, right? When there's a blend of the magic and the logic, and when there's also an understanding that whatever place you are making, right, is going to be there for a long time, hopefully, right? Quote, assuming it's qualitative. But in order for that space and that place not to become empty, right, you have to design it with humanity first and humanity in mind. That's really what I mean by human-centric. So whether it's a large development in prime central London or whether it's a small development here in my little design with the human use as the in the end, and less with your Excel spreadsheet. So it's bringing that humanity into the equation, and you see it when it works, and you see it when it doesn't. So that's why I'm focused really on human-centric real estate and development that has to have a purpose and a meaning, and understanding the organic nature of how we, you and I live.
It's very interesting. Does that mean that you incorporate sustainability within your projects, or does that mean, like, if I was to choose to live in this property, what does that mean? Like, how would I feel the human centricity in these projects?
Yeah. So sustainability, it has to be a given, right? I think in 2024 you can't build anything without at least a nod in that direction. But I'll give you an example. So we're working on a little project right now. It's not too big. It's under 30 units, but the whole thing is designed in that respect. Everything we do is designed around the connections that you're going to make while you are living in that place and that space. So the units might be smaller, right, with more efficient design and European style appliances and things like that, but the common areas are bigger, right? So it's really just a reflection of modernity and the way we work and we live and we play today, right? So our property here is going to have, not external, but hopefully it's external, barbecue pits and common patios and a conference room and a Zoom room and a shared tool library and things like the dog wash and the car wash and all of these elements that allow people to be less individualized as a sort of a commodity and more connected to the people that are around them, that are in the building, that are in the development, that are in their neighborhood. So that sort of thinking can apply across the board, whether you're doing something small in a small town like Mahone Bay in Nova Scotia, or if you're in prime central London and you're redoing a key heritage area. The questions there are more about, well, what's the culture, what's the pulse, how is this going to live and breathe and become alive, right, as it should, and those are the kinds of questions that you need to ask.
I was wondering if you had the chance to look at Neom, the city that Saudi Arabia is building. And I mean, the whole concept is quite stunning. Like, the whole thing is a wall, and it's a mirror wall. And then the idea is that,
look, I think conceptually it's incredible. It's almost unbelievable how spectacular the concept is, right? I would have some reservations about where it's being placed and I've heard great things about it, and I've also heard negative things about it, and in terms of displacement of people and things like that. But look, I a couple of years ago I worked on one of those mega projects for over a year, actually, in Alula, and there's great intentions around some of those mega projects and some of those developments. I think the important thing is, wherever you're developing and whatever you're doing, you kind of want to remove the ego, right? And ensure that what you're bringing is humanity and culture and connection and community. So look, I think that one specifically is a very, very ambitious project. I have some reservations around sustainability in that issue and displacement of people and things like that. But there's wonderful examples of community building around the world that aren't as sort of ambitious as that one.
And I want to also talk to you about, where is your heart when it comes between your two main domains, like real estate and coaching, and where when you wake up every day, which one do you feel more inclined to work on?
Look, I love them both. I mean, I think they're both in my DNA, and the commonality between the two is transformation, right? Maybe I should have been a painter or something. I love transformation. I love creating things out of nothing. I love building things, and whether you're building up somebody's strategic plan for tomorrow, or building up their confidence, or building up their resistance, or their resilience, or building up, more of a life plan or a personal brand. That's a type of creativity and a type of transformation that you can work on with people. Real estate is simply the stage on which you can do that, right? So for me, they're very symbiotic, right? I can be coaching somebody, a leader or a CEO or an executive, and then the next day pivot onto a real estate development. And I see the real estate development as a stage, right? And I'm a stage master. So what am I going to put in place on that stage so there can be transformation in that place, right? And that's, I think, the difference between me and, let's say, a more traditional developer, in that I kind of see placemaking, sense of place, transformation, bringing in the magic, allowing the real estate or allowing the development to be the stage for people to transform and to connect. So yeah, they're both kind of very connected, I think. So I don't wake up in the morning and struggle and go, oh gosh, today I have to work on a real estate project, but my passion is actually in executive coaching. I get my fuel from seeing transformation in places and people.
I was wondering, like, when we look at like executives that have like made it in the standards of modern society, these are like the chief executive officers and
Sure.
who get paid like large sums of money.
Sure.
And we think that they are like very successful to the point that, oh, why do they need any help? Like they are so like, strong, you know? And then I'm
Right.
sure that in your case, like you've seen that even if they have reached that level of success, that doesn't mean that they have figured it out entirely.
No, and look, I know this from my own experience, right? I've done that, and worked in a world of, in financial services in Switzerland, and been very ambitious, and checked off all of those boxes, right, that are quote unquote your path to success. And I got to the end of that road and felt very lost and empty and unfulfilled, and it felt meaningless and things like that. So I think you're right. I think you can get to a quote unquote a place of perceived success and feel completely as though both that path was wrong, or that path is not fulfilling, or it's not nourishing you, or it's not doing what it was supposed to do, right? It's like the what's that saying? It's like not sold as what. Anyway, I can't remember what the saying is. There's some good metaphor that I'm blanking on right now, but the bill of goods that we are sold around success often don't add up. And you see that in the crisis of meaning, the crisis of loneliness, the crisis of depression and anxiety and suicides, and the list goes on, in terms of seeing a culture that is off center, that is diseased. And Gabor Mate wrote a great book recently called The Myth of Normal, where you and I have become normalized to what we consider success, and what we think we should be striving for. And what I'm doing with my practice and my practice with my colleagues at Whole Human Coaching is just helping people think differently. And I know that's an old Apple saying, but think differently, work with more intention, and let's examine the reasons why you felt A, B, and C were the parameters of success. And often it requires a reevaluation, and then you can become stronger and better at what you're doing, and more creative and more transformative. But that striving for success can be a real double-edged sword.
Sometimes I wonder, is it only us millennials or Generation Z or the young people who are really striving for meaning in what we do and how we spend our time? Because if you look back maybe at the older generation, like, do you think they also cared, but they didn't have the means to express that?
Sure. So, I mean, we're coming out of sort of 50 or 60 or 70 years of incredible growth or incredible transformation and incredible abundance, right? At least in the West, in the wealthy West. And we were sold uh, an idea and a concept about life and about success and about ambition and about the path that you were supposed to be on. So, as younger individuals, we weren't told to think about um, meaning and what is the meaning of success and what is it that makes you happy and what 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 are your goals. So I don't think it's a question of not caring. It's just that generation was not brought up with any of that on their radar screen. I certainly wasn't. you know you were brought up to go to school, check that box. Get married or have some kind of relationship, check that box. Have the right house, check that box, right? So but now people are in 2024, and it's been probably 20 years now that people are kind of going, hold on, this just doesn't quite add up. I think I need more, right? What's the meaning of all this? Why? What's the purpose and stuff? So I think you do see a huge awakening in all age groups now, kind of going, oh, dusting off the dust. And they're like, what have we just done? Right. So
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
it's 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 because we were sold a bill of goods that didn't add up, and now people are striving for that sense of meaning.
And the bill of goods for 2023 and beyond would be definitely AI. So I wonder,
Mm,
last year, similar to this time, probably earlier, ChatGPT came about, and I want
yep.
to know, what was your initial reactions to this technology?
Mm. Oh, I'm all for it. I with trepidation, right? At the same, so I don't know if your audience and your guests are much like me, but I think it's fascinating. I see it as an incredible tool. Um, it's scary thinking of, but that's more thinking of sort of dystopian movies where AI robots have taken over and Ex Machina and things like that. Having nightmares about those sorts of things, but I find it an incredible tool that allows people to be even more creative than they already are.
You're an executive coach, so I'm sure that you had these kind of conversations with ChatGPT or similar
Mhm.
service where they really are good at giving advice. I've used it many times in different situations where I would consult ChatGPT on certain personal or professional matters,
Mhm.
and for a lot of the time, the advice is pretty decent, although it's very fluffy, so it doesn't give you a real direction. It just
Mm.
describes the problem for you clearly. So what do you
Right,
think of that?
right. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of how do I phrase this properly? So in the coaching realm, as you know, we are told that we are supposed to not guide people, right? Not direct them. So I understand why if you're asking sort of coaching questions with AI, that it would be non-guiding. So they're following the principles of the International Coaching Federation, which I think is great. Um, but I agree that it's a little bit like a one-way street, isn't it? Going down AI for things like coaching or executive coaching or dealing with things like mental health or mental fitness. Um, so I still think the human element um, is important, right? It's a little bit like going to the doctor or self-diagnosing yourself on WebMD, right? You can get a whole lot of information from AI or from the internet, but what do you do with it, right? So for me, I love how we're living in the age of knowledge and the age of information. That's wonderful, but at least for coaching, I think it's important to have an overlay of humanity on top of that. So yeah, do all the research you want, have all the conversations you like. Then what, right? It's like, what do you do with that information? I guess is my sort of answer to your question. Is great. Yeah, it's a superb foundation, gets you very, very informed. And then I guess my question is, now what, right? What do you do next?
While I do agree that going to a doctor and there's like some sort of comforting and reassuring to speak to an authority that is a doctor who's licensed and educated and knowledgeable. But also, there's no doubt that the amount or the number of coaches that are required, not only coaches, but also probably mental health therapists, and um, is going to decrease. Do you think so? Like, do you think we're going to need less of therapists and coaches and doctors in the future?
Oh, because of AI.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. You know, I suspect, like many other jobs, AI will have a prominent position in those fields as well. Just I guess the question is when, right? How long will that take? I mean, the way I'm kind of approaching it is, what value am I adding, right? What can I add over and above the sort of the language-based AI, ChatGPT kind of thing? And I think it's a great tool. It's an incredible tool. It's unbelievable. You know, it can help me. I use it for writing sometimes, for ideas, for, you know, it's incredible. Like it's hard to believe that how it's evolved in the last year, and even within real estate, you know, doing things with image generation or idea generation or mood board generation. I mean, it's an incredible set of tools. So I think everybody needs to to at least understand what's going on. In terms of taking over this industry, maybe not in the foreseeable future, but because I still think that human connection over and above the knowledge is really important. And I think one of the things that has happened in recent decades with social media is we've become individualized, right? And separated and divided. So I think it's important, whether you're using AI or any other sort of technology platform. I think it's still important, the human element, the human connection, the community connection, the realness that we have. I mean, if you think of it even from an evolutionary biology perspective, you know, we are made to be together. And the events of the last 20 years with social media and things like that may have demonstrated or tried to demonstrate otherwise. But again, the epidemic of loneliness and suicides and stress and anxiety and all of the challenges that are happening around children and youth that are addicted to their screens tells me that we still need humanity as an interface to connect with AI.
A series on Netflix called The Story of Life, a kind of a refresher and real reminder, like how this whole magic begins. Because I remember in your episode with Neil, you actually said something like, every day I wake up and it's magical to see yourself sitting and breathing and thinking. But one thing that struck me in that series is the fact that adaptability is the most ingredient for survival, like it's the most important ingredient for survival.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, in today's day and age, yes, we are herd animals. Yes, we are social creatures. But I think what we're doing right now is one way of adapting to the new world we're living in. We definitely seek social connection, but instead of having it in person, now we're having it over digital devices. And I'm wondering, like, as myself, I'm a graduate of information systems, and I've created Parrots Lab, which is a company that develops custom ChatGPT-like agents that are trained on specific data sets. And I'm looking at your website before that conversation, and I saw that you have a very unique way of approaching your executive coaching business. And I think, if you compare this to the regular ChatGPT, you will see that ChatGPT basically sums all the people who do the same service and kind of have a blend of all of them, and it doesn't have a unique style to its coaching services, let's say. And I'm thinking that maybe, there's definitely something very unique about Colin coaching style. And I'm thinking now immediately that would be great to develop a custom ChatGPT trained on Colin's knowledge and style. And now this would be offered at scale as a service, because as you know, ChatGPT now it has a GPT store that basically you can create your own GPT, and basically other people will use it. I remember. Sorry, I'm taking long to, but
I
just
love it.
want
I
to
love it. Go
clarify
for it.
this point. For
Don't
example, I don't know if you know Alex Hermouzi. He's like a kind of a business coach slash YouTuber, whatever, a big celebrity right now, and he has a GPT, Hermouzi GPT, and all his books and all of this stuff is basically in that GPT. So basically you're conversing with his digital replica, with his AI replica that knows a lot about him and how his unique style in business and unique style of developing the offer and developing all of that stuff. So I'm thinking about doing the same thing for you.
I would love to scale up me. Look, my mission, right? I am all about people rediscovering their humanity, living in integrity, being fearless, and being free, right? So if we could do something to amplify that message, I'm all over it like a wet rag. I am, I don't, what's the word? I don't want my ego to get in the way of spreading that message of love and connection and connectivity and freedom. I mean, freedom, I don't mean like sort of freedom and liberty in a constitutional way, but just freedom from psychological suffering, right? I'm thinking about the next evolution of humanity, right? And this idea of connection and community and local to global as opposed to global to local, and rethinking things like degrowth, but not to scare people away, but like how can we slow down and do things a little better and reimagine the way we work and reimagine the way we live. So if there's any tools out there to do that, I'm all for it. And bring it on. Let's do it.
I'm glad you liked it. I mean, this is a really spontaneous and on the spot. Like I just thought about it and I was like, yeah, let me share it. Maybe it's a good idea. I thought of doing something for myself, but really I don't have much to offer in this space. I mean, I did write a book in 2019 about my journey. It's kind of like a journal, though. I wouldn't think of myself as a pioneer or like as a coach or anything like that. So, but yeah, it's
well, that's another
cool
conversation, my friend. we can have another conversation about that. I won't put you on the spot here, but I think you might have a lot more to offer than you think.
What would you ask me if you were to ask me?
Well, I heard a slight sort of self-limiting belief that nobody wants to hear your story, right? And I would challenge that. That's all. Rethink it, because you might be surprised.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've heard of limiting beliefs before. I actually tell some friends when they tell me something, oh, that's a limiting belief. So I know how to point it out in other people.
Oh, well, so we're experts at that, right? In our modern culture, it's so easy to, and that's why a coach or a friend or a therapist or somebody to bounce ideas off is so important, because we often don't take our own medicine, right? Or we don't listen to ourselves. and self-limiting beliefs. I mean, talk about storytelling. Those we tell ourselves stories all day long, and often most of them are just what's the polite way? Just not serving us, right?
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that you were doing great in the financial services, and you reached what we call success earlier in your life. And what made you transition all the way, for example, to what you are now?
So I kind of had I kind of lived in three chapters, right? The first chapter was what my coach actually called it seeking fabulous, right? So the first chapter of my life, I have to have this and I have to have that and I have to live there and I have to do this and I have to wear a suit and a tie and be successful and blah 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 blah. And I woke up one day and all of it didn't mean anything to me. I had a beautiful home, beautiful cars, beautiful vacations, lived in the heart of Europe, and none of it meant anything. So I spent no time at all giving it all away and moving back to Canada and restarting restarting the career.
I'm gonna use the opportunity that I'm speaking to you and
Yeah.
basically consult you on my personal life.
Okay.
So, in brief, I was born in a country called Lebanon. We are a breeder and export of talent because our country is very small and doesn't have any opportunity. So quickly, I graduated college and marketing degree, went to the Gulf regions, including Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and worked there for most of my 15 years career and climbed the ladder. And, in my family culture, it's all about success. And my brother's an engineer, my sister is a doctor. Like we're like thriving for success. And I did accelerate in my career, and I reached a GM level for an 80-person company, and then I went and became a CMO of a publicly listed company really early in my career. And then I decided to toss all my career in the Middle East and move to the US and start fresh with a new major in information systems and technologies, like a new passion of mine. But this left me in a very strange position where my ex-colleagues told me that I did career suicide. However, for me, like I'm following exactly what I learned, like follow your dreams, follow your passions. I'm just graduated with my master's and I started Paris Lab, but it's very lonely when you're starting a company, a one-person agency. And it's very scary. It's very, there's a lot of, am I going to make it? Am I going to not? I live in California. It's a very expensive state. Like there's a pressure to really, produce and make money. And, I think about my life right now and the story that I just told you. And I also think about what you were saying of like, leaving all the material sides behind. And, but then the material side or financial side is quite important as well.
So it's all connected to the purpose of the destination, right? So in your life and your past life and my past life, the purpose of the destination that you were aligned to, right? That success was driven by what? I think it was driven by externality. So driven by family, driven by culture, driven by society, right? Probably for you too. And what you've done is you've pivoted and you've said, no, I'm going to go down this route. Now, the destination here, the why, right? For you and for me is purpose driven, right? It's meaningful driven. It's driven by it's driven by a desire to do some good in this world, as opposed to proving yourself to somebody else. And I think that's really the big distinction. And if anybody in your audience is listening and is having questions about this, ask yourself, precisely why are you doing what you are doing, right? And if the motive or the reason is money or success, quote unquote, or appeasement of somebody or some social construct or whatever, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So of course you're going to be alone right now and scared, and when you're pushing boundaries and pushing yourself towards a purpose-driven existence, it's not easy, and it's not always a smooth road, and sometimes it's lonely, and sometimes the financial stresses can be difficult, but the underlying intention is very different, right? I always say that to people also that say, I want to be successful, or I want to be wealthy, or I want to be this, or, well, why? What's the purpose? And if the purpose of it is, I have to show my family, right, that I'm worthy. So just make sure that you understand the why. Why am I doing this, right? And is it addressing some core wound of unworthiness, right? And if it is, you kind of want to recenter yourself to something that's more meaningful, purpose-driven, and the intention of the destination is not proving your worth, but it is, I don't know, it can be whatever you want, but expanding the world, making the world a better place, changing this, changing that, inventing this, adding this new code to the world. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But make sure the intention isn't trying to cover up some core wound of unworthiness, and isn't directed towards success, quote unquote. It needs to be deeper.
I feel that I really wanted to be useful to the world. I remember my time as CMO. I felt that I'm doing meaningless work because I'm generating all of this money for a company, and it felt okay. I'm being successful, but what does it mean? What's my contributions to the world? And but now when I look at myself right now, okay, yes, I'm fascinated by artificial intelligence way before generative AI came, and then that's why I pursued this passion. And now I'm trying to balance between, okay, where this passion is going to take me, how can I use that passion to be useful to others, and why I'm doing all of this. So the why is a very tricky one, as you may assume. Part of it is I'm very romantic about the idea of coexisting with intelligent machines. I feel the philosophical side of this matter really excites me and scares me at the same time. I feel it's very powerful feeling. But also, the other side is that, okay, I have some knowledge in that technology. I know how it works from the back end. How can I make myself useful to other companies? I think the element of purpose would work with me in choosing who to work with. So now I'm thinking, okay, who are my clients? Am I going to work with people who are not doing anything good for humanity, or should I work with clients who have or are doing some impactful work that is good for humanity?
I get it. I think the one thing that I would ask you to consider is, you mentioned passion, right? And I think what we want to distinguish here is passion versus purpose, right? You did mention purpose, right? But you spoke of it more in relation to segmentation of client, right? I think what you wanted, the segmentation of client is kind of easier, but I think what you want to do is we recognize your passion, but articulate more what the purpose is, right? What do you really want to do? Right? What not do, but what do you really, what is the impact that you want to make? What is the legacy that you want to leave? What is the result on humanity, or maybe your next door neighbors? Doesn't matter. We don't have to go big, right? What is the impact of what you're doing on you, the people around you, the community that you're creating, and the clients that you're working with? Because you may find you have a client who, I don't know, makes something as simple as plastic tubes, right, for construction. Okay, there's not a lot of sort of deep sense of humanity and meaning in there, right? Like, kind of tough to find, right, when you're talking about plastic tubes for construction. I'm sure somebody listening has an incredible passion for it, so I don't want to knock it, but I'm just saying, instead of like trying to figure out if they're the right client, figure out what you're going to do for them and to them and with them and for, dig into that. Because from passion to purpose, there's a bit of a bridge that you want to cover. And, the sky's your limit. Will it be unlimited, right? What do you want? What do you want to do, and why?
Colin, I feel immensely lucky that I got a taste of what an executive coach would
Sorry,
would do to me.
This didn't need. It wasn't intended to go there, but I caught the ball that you threw my way, I think. But that's the work at hand, right? Because sometimes your clients might be totally uninteresting and not really adding anything to humanity that you know of, right, off the top, but you know that you are purpose driven because you've decided that the elements of your brand promise are A, B, C, D, right?
I'm so grateful for you to join me in this conversation. And, I think a lot of people would definitely benefit a lot from, speaking to you. So if someone wants to reach out to you, how would they do that?
The best place is just my website, colinkingsmill.com or wholehumancoaching.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I'm in all the usual places. You just have to Google me and you will find me.
Definitely. No, thank you for this conversation. Is there anything you want to end with?
No, I don't think. I feel like we need to have a lot more conversations about AI and coaching and business. So if you'll have me back, we can do part 2 sometime.
Absolutely. I would be honored to.
Thank you.